Which one is your favorite park in Seoul?
I love to walk in the Han River Park near my house. It's a perfect place for relaxing.
How about Tapgol Park?
It is a small park in the center of Seoul, near the Jongno Street.
You mean that tiny area near Insadong?
Yes, it might be small and look insignificant, but it is a very important place in our history.
Let me hear why.
First of all, let me tell you about a few things about the history of this park. Let's start with the name. Tapgol is a pagoda in Korean, so the English name is Pagoda Park.
It is a place to keep and worship a so-called sarira, a little stone from the bodies of Buddha or Buddhist monks.
If you go inside the park, you can see the pagoda. You know, in the past, there was a Buddhist temple in this place.
Not one, but two. During the Koryo period, there was a temple called Hungboksa. And then, during the Choson period, King Sejo ordered building of another temple at this spot. It was called Wongaksa. Sadly, it was later removed, and only the stone pagoda remained here.
I see. How come it changed to a park?
In 1897, our country went through big changes. The king at that time, Kojong, declared himself an emperor and changed the country's name from Choson to Taehan Empire. He wanted his country to be very modern and developed, following the Western model. This park was designed by Mr. Brown, an Englishman.
So, this place became the first modern park in Korea.
Yes, but this is not the most important historical role of the park.
What is then?
This park was the very place where the March 1st movement started.
You know what the March 1st movement is, do you?
I do. It is the biggest peaceful independence movement in Korea.
Japan wanted to become a colonial empire, just like the Western powers. They started to interfere in our country's affairs, and in 1910, they colonized Korea.
How come that they did not fight with weapons but chose to start a non-violent movement?
At that time, after the World War I, colonists had many different ideas about how to achieve their independence.
That's right. In January 1919, the Korean students studying Tokyo prepared a plan for the February 8th Declaration of Independence and delivered it to Korea.
Then, when Emperor Gojong suddenly passed away, people suddenly felt that it is needed to publicly declare independence more than ever.
Both of you are very good. They chose the method of public declaration because they wanted to get the information to the World Peace Conference in Paris that Korea was an independent nation and Japan unjustly occupied it. Led by 33 leaders from several religions, Koreans decided to declare independence. They planned to announce the Declaration of Independence at the Pagoda Park.
By the way, why did they choose March 1st as the date of the event?
Because there was a funeral for King Kojong. During the king's funeral, many people from various regions gathered to attend the funeral.
Wasn't King Gojong's funeral on March 3rd?
You are right. King Kojong's funeral was on March 3rd, but they avoided that day because, it could interrupt the funeral, things like that. They tried to do it on March 2nd, but then the Christians opposed it because it was Sunday. That's why March 1st was chosen. On the 1st of March, 1919, 29 of these leaders met at a restaurant called Daehwagwan at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they read the declaration.
Wait, what? They did not go to the Tapgol Park? What was the point of reading this declaration just between themselves? In a restaurant?
They were worried that violence might break out. That's why they kept the meeting among themselves. They sent the declaration to the Japanese Governor General. Then they were arrested by the Japanese police.
So, how is this exactly related to the park?
They did not come to announce it, but someone else did. A young man named Chung Cheong read the declaration in front of a huge crowd. Soon, people gathered around and started to shout, "대한민국 만세!" which means, "Hooray, Korean independence." Do you guys know how many people participated in this movement?
More than the 2 million people. It is because after the declaration was announced at the Tapgol Park, the passion to stand up against foreign oppression spread in the whole country. Suddenly, the Japanese were worried that the movement can result in a revolution, so they suppressed it by force. Many people were killed or imprisoned.
What happened to the student who read the declaration?
Chung Cheong? Well, he was captured in August of the same year, and he was sent to prison in Pyongyang. He was in prison for 2.5 years. After his release, he joined the independence movement again. Luckily, he lived to see the liberation of Korea. He passed away in 1976.
Sadly, not everyone could see the freedom of their homeland. Do you know who Yu Guan-sun is?
Oh yes, I read a book about her. She was just a young girl who wanted to study. You see, traditionally, women did not receive formal education in Choson. They could learn to read, write, like poetry or novels, or paint if their family supported them. But they didn't have schools to attend. Now, when the first Western-style women's schools opened, Yu Guan-sun was one of the outstanding students with big dreams. But then, the Japanese Empire ordered many Korean schools to close. The school that Yu Guan-sun attended was one of them.
Oh, I see. It is very understandable why she joined the independence fight.
She didn't not only join, she also organized demonstration. On April 1st, 1919, she helped to organize a huge movement in her hometown, Cheonan. People came together on the outlet market, shouting, "Hooray, Korean independence!" and waving Korean flags.
Yes, sadly, the Japanese military police shot at the protesters, and they killed Yu Guan-sun's parents. She was captured and imprisoned in the Southern Moon prison. She was tortured and she died there.
That's horrible.
Yes, but she gave courage to many women to stand up and fight for the country. So in a way, she became a hero for both the nation and the women of Korea.
Now, shall I go back a bit? I have a question. What exactly did the Declaration of Independence say?
It announced to all the countries in the world that Korea is an independent nation and that the Korean people have heaven-given right to determine their own fate. It said that they are ready to stand up against any oppression and that the activities of the Empire of Japan are unjust and unlawful.
First, the declaration is not against any foreigner, but it is the expression of the free Korean spirit.
Second, that they shall express the views of Korean people until the last Korean stands, and until the last moment possible.
Third, no action of the independence activists should ever disturb public order and peace, and they should demonstrate their views with honor and dignity.
That's inspiring. Even in the time of greatest danger to the nation, remaining human was the most important for them. Sometimes I think that people at that time were more enlightened than today.
I agree with you.
Any one of you knows whose statue is this? A hint, he is an independence movement leader.
One of the leaders. Yes, his name is Son Byung-hee. He was a leader of a very important religious movement in Korea.
In the 19th century, there was a movement in Korea called Donghak. It was a teaching that said, heaven is in all of us, and everyone is equal. The name means Eastern teaching. At that time, Christianity was called Western teaching. Some people liked this ideology because it said that everyone is equal and that love, tugun, is more important than obeying elders and superiors. Others said that this is a teaching of a foreign culture, something that is not ours.
Yes, as a result, Koreans decided to create their version of this teaching. This is why it became called Donghak. Son Byung-hee was the third leader of this movement. He renamed it to Cheondogyo, which means the way of heaven. They played an important role in the independence fight, and they supported independence activities during their spiritual services.
I wonder this religion still exists.
Yeah, it still has followers. Would you like to see the most important cathedral of Cheondogyo? It's not far from the Tapgol Park. They even have their flag, which looks like this.
We can go there.
Before we leave, let's take a small quiz about the buildings in the park. 1. What is the name of the structure built in 1902 to commemorate the 40th anniversary of King Gojong's ascension to the throne?
팔각정.
2. What is displayed on the fence inside the park and engraved on copper plates that show the scenes from the Manse movements?
3.1운동 기념부조.
Where is the March 1st Independence Movement Memorial Tower that was originally here located today? 1. Seoul Railroad Station. 2. Beside the Sodaemun Prison History Hall. 3. War Memorial of Korea.
Yes, is number 2.
The last question is an OX quiz. Listen carefully. The 33 national representatives consisted of 15 members of Cheondogyo, 16 members of Christianity, and 2 members of Buddhism.
Yes, the sentence is right.
Guys, you are great. I really enjoy walking through Seoul and sharing more stories with you.
Oh, no problem. We are always too glad to talk about our culture. Now, could we have some lunch? I'm starving.
Of course. This one is on me. Let's go!